We're back, Joe. We're here for another office hours for How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Doing good. A little cold, but doing good.
It's a little chilly here in the Utah, right?
Yeah, it's a little chilly here in Utah. It's like 43, 44 today. Not as bad as it's been.
Bro, your internet is, how you say, struggling.
Less effective?
Well, it's not your fault. It's your internet.
Use the term less effective. Is it?
It's less effective, yeah. Yeah, it's less effective. I know where you learned that, by the way. The less effective example.
Did you? Do you?
Yeah, we have the same background, me and you,
Yes,
on that one. So.
I like the word less effective. It's a nice politic term.
It's an effective word.
Yes, it's very effective.
The irony.
Yeah.
The irony. All right. Well, we're here to answer questions around the call for papers. We're hoping that people are joining us on YouTube and that they're asking us questions live. Just use the YouTube comments, and we'll be watching the YouTube comments. Any questions you guys want to ask about? Hey, how do I get my talk selected for ng-conf? That's what we're here for. We're here to take your ideas and help you polish them and get them ready for ng-conf, for the big stage. I think Joe, you remember a few years ago when we were starting to do talks? Maybe it was like 5, 6, 7 years ago. We were starting to do talks, and how intimidating that was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that gets tough. And so our goal here today is to make a place where everybody can ask questions. If you want to type it in the chat, you type it right there in the YouTube chat. Also, along the bottom, I've got the StreamYard link. If you want to just join on the live stream with us and ask your question live, we'll interact with you. It might be easier than chatting anyway. So yeah. All right, we're getting more people watching. We're up to 34, so I think we're getting good. Do we want to let's go over some house rules real quick. Now, this meeting, just like any other ng-conf meeting, is going to be presided by our code of conduct. Be very, very respectful. Be very aware that the words you say can make people feel unsafe. And if that's the case, then we're going to need to ask you to try to make people feel safer, feel more welcome, feel more invited, and that they can belong with us. So just know that this meeting goes underneath the code of conduct. And Joel and I's goal is to help as many people get over the mental hurdles and intimidation factor that comes with submitting to one of the largest conferences, around. Certainly the largest Angular conference around. So yeah. Again, if you want to ask a question, put it in the YouTube chat or join the StreamYard, and we will let you into the stage with us, and we'll let you ask a question. Joe and I have a lot of feedback to give, but we've got Alex who joined already.
Nice.
I think Alex has got his first question. I'm going to go ahead and welcome Alex here to the stage with us.
Hey guys,
Alex, good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good. I know you're like ramping up your online presence right now. You're trying to have a good 2021 where you're doing more teaching. So I think this makes sense.
Yeah, it's our whole goal right now. So we're rewriting Coding Cat from what was Gatsby, and then we threw up WordPress, and people are like, "Come on!" And so we're switching over to Next.js and just trying to ramp up the rest of it and get going.
Cool. So let's hear your question. Good luck on all that, by the way. Let us know how we can help. We're interested to help however we can. So
for sure.
Let's hear your question.
Yeah, so I've been trying to crack the ng-conf call for papers, or call for presenters, I guess, for a while now. And I keep tossing around this like Firebase, Firestore, TensorFlow vision thing that I've messed around with. I think I threw in like another something on Scully.io last time, and I'm like, I can't come up with a great talk, and I wanted to hear some feedback.
Cool.
Let me see if I understand. Do you have some talks you want us to critique right now, or do you want me to pull up your talks from last year and do this really vulnerable thing where I give you live feedback. What are you asking?
Ooh, we could do vulnerable. I don't even know which ones I submitted last year. Now you got me curious. Let me look.
Do you know where those are, Joe? Do you have access to that form?
Yeah.
We can even do it.
I'm looking up all my. Here's a rejection. What's this one? Let's see. You guys are so nice on the rejections too. Thank you for that.
We try our hardest, dude. We know what it's like to get punched in the gut when you submit your talk, and so we try our best.
So what's this one? This one was Beyond Angular Material. Oh, this was the new components in Angular I was going to bust out. What else do we have here? Lazy loading named outlets. I thought that was exciting.
All right. Hold on. I'm gonna filter on Alex.
Are you finding it?
Yeah, what's your last name, Alex?
Patterson.
Alex Patterson. Okay, so clear all.
PATT.
Just do Patterson. Okay. Come on, Google spreadsheets.
Is this the code talk with Nick?
That was one of them. Nick's.
Well, that was a workshop.
All right, here
I'd
we
love
are.
to do a workshop, by the way. So any ideas there? The workshops are my most fun.
Hey,
Yeah.
so you got a 1 hour workshop. Perfect. The musical.
Well, one thing to get out of the way right now is that we're not doing any 1 hour workshops at the online event. So we're just looking for 5 minute and 20 minute talks for this event this spring.
I think these are all really good. Like I'm looking at your lazy loaded named outlets. That title's really good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. That's a really specific talk title, which is really, really good. The topic is the name of it's probably not the best name. Maybe something like advanced routing / lazy loaded outlets or something like that, like, or multiple outlets with the Angular router or something like that. I don't know. It's a fine title. It's not the greatest title. It's a fine title.
Okay.
I think another way to put that is the title is good enough. Sometimes you can come up with a title that's just like, wow, that's a great title, right?
Yeah.
But what you don't want to do is work so hard to come up with a title name that you actually detract because you're trying to be too cutesy, too smart, whatever. So this title by itself, the title doesn't hold this talk back from being accepted for sure. So that's not a problem. This is a good enough title.
Yeah. That's fair.
Right?
Yeah. It's just when you get us and like 5 other people in a room and we're having to go through 500 talks. Do the math on that with me, Alex, and people listening. Do the math on that. 500 talks. If I do 1 minute per talk for just like the first time through,
that's like 5 billion.
500 minutes. Right? So divide that by how many hours is that? That's like over. What is that?
7 hours or something.
A lot of bloody hours.
I'm gonna need a calculator.
It takes us a long time to get through round 1 on talks.
That's like 8 hours.
8 hours.
Yeah, and on that first round of talks, 1 minute, your title really matters on that 1 minute. You know what I'm saying? So like kind of going to your other ones, Perfect the Musical is not a great title. It's probably not going to catch us on that, like that first pass of, man, we got to get all the ones that we like know for like, and the first round is basically like anything we don't want, we know for sure. We'll go ahead and we'll just kick those out, or anything that's like we know is not going to make it past the last really hard round. We just go, okay, like it's good, but we got to move on because there's no way we can do 2 8-hour rounds. Like after the first round, we got to go from 500 to like 110, maybe 120 tops. And so it's and your title really matters on that round. You can see with 60 seconds only, your title really kind of weighs heavily that first round, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, like if you have the best description, maybe take an extra 5 or 6 minutes, maybe even a day to kind of sleep on your title and iterate on your title, just because that's just the nature of a conference of this size, unfortunately. So,
that's fair. That's a good point.
yeah.
Can I throw another one at you?
Yeah.
So this is my most viewed YouTube video. So it's Angular material theming with FX layout, Sass, and color service. Should I splash that up a little bit or no?
Say it one more time.
So Angular material theming with FX layout, Sass, and a color service.
That's really good for a YouTube video because it's got so much stuff in the title.
Yeah,
that you're gonna hit so many searches. I don't know if it's a great talk title, to be honest. It might be.
I feel like a lot of people struggle with material theming and like that dynamic nature. So maybe the talk would be good around that, but a solid title would be the key.
I think so. I think you focus on that as a thing, and then you do a solid title on that. Yeah, 100%. Like, overcoming the struggle of material theming, or I don't know, like just talking about what is it you're going to talk about, you know? So,
like
or, yeah, I'm trying to get more to like what the actual meaning of the lesson is going to be, right? So, like a really brilliant one was Craig Spence's from the last ng-conf. It was called Into the Unknown, and it was about TypeScript, and he was going to explain what the unknown is in TypeScript. And it was a really, really good talk, and it was a really funny play on words. But I knew from the title what it was going to be about. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so it's really important that they know what you're going to talk about in the title. Your lazy loading named outlets is really good too. I wouldn't want you to cute it up too much, but you got to think, man. You got to get into the mentality of 500 talks, and you gotta jump out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's just kind of tough. And we're the first ones to admit it's not fair. We can pick a fraction of the talks that deserve to go on stage, and it's really, really difficult. If you could ever be there for the very last the last round of talk picks, it's really, really brutal. So anyway, all right. There's a lot of questions, so I'm gonna move on because there's a lot of people here asking questions. Someone's asking Angular questions, which I won't be answering. Hey, Alex, I'm gonna put you on backstage. Feel free to chat us if you want to come back on stage and ask some more questions. Deal?
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, Alex.
Okay. Anyone have an idea on how to instantiate a component only once? This okay? So we're getting Angular questions. Bravery says, "Are talk titles related to musical theme going to stand out more for this event?" I mean, kind of, but like, you know, if your talk title is like Raindrops on Roses, and you know, I'm just probably gonna be like, nah, I need to know what the talk's about.
I think some good advice there is one, a good talk title that describes the talk well and accurately and catches the eye is more important than fitting the theme. If you can fit the theme at the same time, then that's great. And never, ever, ever use 3 things, comma, oh my.
Don't ever do that.
Don't ever do that. Don't ever do blank and blank and blank, oh my.
Oh my.
That is the most overused tripe for a title of whatever it is. Never do that.
Routers and components and observables. Oh my.
Yep, never do that one. That one gets rejected 100% of the time.
So I'll just kind of go back and say again, it helps. It doesn't hurt, but it's not necessary. It's not mandatory. So if you can fit it in, do it, but not to the detriment of actually trying to communicate what you're going to be teaching about. So good question. Kate said, "Hey, I just joined. What's the theme?" So Kate, we're talking about today how to get your talks, how to improve your opportunity to get your talk selected at ng-conf. So, looks like people are describing that. So,
and please do not ask Angular questions in the chat.
Yeah,
we're not here to do Angular tech support.
How does it affect the odds of acceptance? Oh, if non-Angular talks are acceptable. This is a good question. Do we want non-Angular talks, Joe? We have some every year.
Yeah. That you got to be careful. You got to be very careful about a non-Angular talk. Oftentimes, when you think of a non-Angular talk, you might be like, well, a soft skills talk. That's your typical non-Angular talks would be more soft skills talk. A great example of that is Justin Searles a couple of years ago gave this amazing talk about just some general development stuff. One thing is always for sure, soft skills talks have even more competition than other types of talks. So if you want to be in the most competitive, the most difficult, the most likely to be rejected category, then be in the soft skills area, because we're only going to make room for 1 or 2, and we're going to get, be 1 or 2 out of 50 instead of 1 or 2 out of 20 or 10.
Submit on soft skills, because we definitely have a space for soft skills. We reserve spots. So like, even if it's like, man, we have 40 extra talks we want to hear, it doesn't matter. We have to have at least 2 community talks, or we call them soft skills. That's not a great term for it. It's an industry term, but it doesn't really represent what they are. And so that's kind of what I would definitely submit on non-Angular related talks, but they need to be like, wow. This year, there's a lot happening in the community. There's a lot happening around the world, and there's a lot of lessons that we could teach each other. And so this year could be a really good year to do some soft skills talks, but they need to be amazing. And they also, you have to remember, needs to make people feel safe. You know what I'm saying? Your odds, though, are difficult. Your odds, it's a really big category. Last year, I think we had a question about introverts being social, right? I'm trying to remember the speaker's name. I can't remember his name, but anyway, we really care about those non-Angular talks. So yeah.
Yeah, we always make room for them. So submit some good ideas there. What about Daniel Gearbet for the next question?
Daniel.
I think that's the next one up.
Thanks for running this. Where's he at? He's down here?
2 more. Yeah.
All right.
This is a good question.
A lot of talks about pure development stuff like state management routing. Still great. Is there room for related to novel uses of Angular, for instance, stuff about A/B testing? Totally. Of course.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah. So here you want to be careful. For example, if you came up with like, hey, I'm using Angular to do so, the more niche you get and the more things you put on there, if it isn't, it has to be interesting as you get more niche, right? So A/B testing, that applies to a lot of people, but yet it's a little niche. So good idea. As you get more and more narrow and more niche, like how to use, and it's, but yet not exciting, right? How to use Angular to schedule my dental appointments, right? Like, it's probably not going to go because scheduling appointments isn't by itself very exciting. That's not necessarily a great example of being too niche, because Angular is used for scheduling apps all the time. But yeah, if you talk about like how to use Angular to launch a rocket, it's niche. Nobody else is going to do that, but it's exciting and interesting, so that could get accepted, right? So the more niche you get, the more exciting it has to get. But as you add in the like Angular with novel uses, stuff that is going to apply to people matters more. The talks that don't get selected a lot, for example, are like Angular with .NET, right? Very common, but still you're cutting off to a third the audience.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say next, is to kind of come at the same question a different way. Think if you did a .NET talk, super applicable, especially to this audience, but how many of the audience doesn't use .NET? Probably 70%, maybe higher. I don't know, somewhere around there. So your talk isn't useless for them. It's just not as applicable. And you're trying to make a talk that's applicable for at least 50 to 60% of the room. You're trying your best to do those kind of topics. And so, yeah.
We want the talk, even if you don't use it, it should be valuable to you to hear the talk, even if it's not something you're going to do, but valuable to you to hear.
All right. So, and again, we're about to bring Georgie on real quick, and we're going to let Georgie ask some questions, but I wanted to let everyone know on the bottom part of the screen over here, we have a link to join the StreamYard. If you want to join us live and ask your question live, feel free to go to that link and join us. So yeah, let me go ahead and where'd he go? Georgie, there he is. Okay, Georgie, how you doing?
Hey guys, Georgi here from Bulgaria.
Hey, you're
very well, thanks. And how are you?
Good,
really good.
All right. So yeah, I heard that the talks are, I read in the mail that the talks are going to be pre-recorded. Is that correct?
Yeah, for this event, it'll be pre-recorded.
Yeah, I have kind of a concern that how is going, or is there going to be a kind of interaction between the speaker and the public? Any kind of questions? Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of a block of 3 or 4 talks, we'll have the speakers come on live and we'll let people ask a live Q&A after your talk. So your talk will be pre-recorded, which is really, really nice. Trust me, for you and for us. And then you get to go do a live Q&A after with the other speakers kind of in your area. So yeah, you'll have a chance to interact with the audience. And
not only that, during your talk, we ask the speakers to actually be on in the chat. And we let the audience know that the speakers are going to be there and be in the chat. So if you say something that maybe they have a question about, you can be watching chat, they might ask a question, and you can sit there and actually like answer their question through chat while your talk is going on. So a couple of options there. Plus, usually we do hallway tracks where we'll have places for people to come and just meet with you. Is just like, hey, I kind of like if they caught you in the hall at the in-person conference and wanted to either thank you for your talk or maybe ask you a follow-up question. So we do those as well. And like the organization is, there's a block of talks for about 2.5 hours. Then there's 2 hours of what we call hallway track with various activities going on. And then back to single track, talks for 2.5 hours. And that's the whole day.
It makes me think, so the conference is going to be kind of a business day, US time, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're a speaker and you happen to be, say, European time, we'll make sure that your talk is in the morning, so that it's easier for you to be there, and that the Q&A, it might be still in your evening time, but doable for you. We make every effort to make sure that works.
We'll try and line it up the best we can. So
yeah, if you were in Asia, we'd see what we could do to figure out what's most convenient for you.
We'd work with you.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, this is basically what I was concerned about. So because I recently gave a talk and it was like just me talking to myself, no questions, no nothing.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Did you
but
like
this one recorded?
Yeah.
Say
was
that
anybody
again.
listening?
Yeah, it's hard to know, right? It's actually really fun to pre-record your talk and then be on the chat live. So when people are like, hey, I like how Georgie said this, and then you can comment and say, hey, thanks, I worked really hard on this talk, and you can have it makes for a really good time the day of the event. So
yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Gorgie. I'm going to go ahead and put you backstage. Feel free to stay here and write it out. If you want to join the live again, just chat and we'll put you back in. So, all right, let's move on to the next question.
Ramiro here to jump in. That's a good question. Ramiro Rivera.
Where is it? Is that the bottom?
I'm
gonna go up a little bit. Is that cool?
Yeah.
How can I find a topic for talk? I have some experience with Angular, Material, ArcGIS, TypeScript, but I can't find a talk idea. That's tough, like as someone who's given a lot of talks, I usually give something that I know that other people don't know. That's like just to kind of put it into a phrase, something I know better than I think other people will know, and I give that talk. Some examples have been I've given talks about performance. I've given talks about reactive Angular and just how to really fully embrace observables. Joe does lots of talks about testing and how to really kind of level up your testing game. So I don't know. I think you can pick something you're comfortable with. However, I've been a total idiot where I just like make up some absurd talk title that I have no idea how to deliver on, right? And then a conference will pick it, and I'm like, now I gotta figure out how to give this talk, right? And so that's another strategy, is just aim for the moon, and if you get picked, then you give your talk. And that's actually kind of a strategy. Everyone here, you don't have to have your talk ready when you submit it. Like Joe and I don't want to see that you already got it prepared. Just think of what you would talk about. A little bit of faking it till you make it type mentality, right? What would you talk about if you got picked? What would you like to talk about? And then submit on that. And if you get picked, then you can go through and fill in the details and prepare your talk.
Having reasonable confidence that you can deliver the talk will be important, right?
Yeah.
If you're just barely learning to program and you decide to give a talk about advanced routing in Angular, that may be too ambitious to get it put together in a couple of months. But I'd like to throw in a couple of strategies that I use to pick talks as well, right? Going off what Aaron was talking about, as you're doing work, all the time you're going to encounter things that either you didn't know beforehand and you like had to figure something out. When that happens, make a mental note of it and think, hey, is this something that like it is talked about and well known everywhere, or is what I just did, is this somewhat unknown or a common thing that people have to encounter at some point? And if that's true, then that's a great idea for a talk, right? Like, I just figured out how to do this thing, and maybe a lot of people, maybe this is still common and people know how to do it, but a lot of people go through the same process of not knowing how to do this and then figuring it out. And then now that you have that idea, here's something that's worth talking about, package that up, figure out how to package it up in a way that people would like to see it. There was I think another question about does everything have to be novel? We'll get to that, but not everything has to be brand new knowledge, right?
So I kind of want to dive in on what you just said, Joe. And we say this almost every year. Let's say you're at work or you're on your side project and you do something that you don't think anyone's done. You haven't seen a tutorial on it. It was super powerful. It was super efficient. And you solved something really cool in a really cool way. We see two approaches to those types of those ideas getting submitted. One is called the lessons learned talk. Okay. Now, lessons learned you end up taking about 25% of your time explaining how you learned the lesson. And then the other maybe 50 to 75% of the time actually teaching the lesson. And so we usually discourage lessons learned and tell you to reformat your talk into just teach us the lesson. Because what we don't like is someone to get up on stage and be like, hey, I was at work. I worked with Joe and I worked with the other people and this person, and we had a new manager and it was crazy and it was Christmas and like we had a deadline and stress and you're just like, none of that contributes to the talk. Like, we don't really need to see the background story. What we want is the lesson. So don't do a lessons learned where you have a ton of backstory. Because a lot of people have crafted their ideas. We get lots of these every year. And we just have to skip past them in that first round where we're doing 500 talks, whittling it down to 100. Don't do a lessons learned. Take the lesson you learned, pull that out of your story, and submit that as a talk. But don't do the whole lessons learned. If that helps you understand kind of what we're looking for, or really, and this will transcend ng-conf. This will go into other conferences as well.
And work hard to make sure that the context for why you had to figure this out is easily digestible and quick. If it takes 10 minutes to explain how you got into the scenario, you had to figure it out, that's not acceptable. Here's a really good example. I just talked to recently a company who has an app that controls x-ray machines, and the x-ray machine has two screens. And the screens are both controlling the x-ray machine. They receive feedback from the x-ray machine and send stuff in. And the screens have to be 100% identical. With Angular. Yeah. Totally with Angular. And they have to be identical. So if you press the button over here that puts the screen in this particular state, the other screen has to be the same, but it's not just a rebroadcast of the same video. It's actually a totally different instance. And so they had to coordinate these two and the state between these two. Kind of an interesting idea, a little novel, relatively unique, but it only takes 20 seconds to explain the need for it. And then you can go through how to solve an interesting problem like that. Totally cool.
Yeah, like multi-device data synchronization in Angular. That's like that kind of talk title. That's powerful, yo. Like, multi-device state management for Angular. It's like, whoa.
Yep.
That does seem intense. I would like to hear maybe a talk about that.
Free talk title idea. We're just throwing out there to people. Here's another example of a way that I came up with a talk idea. I was doing something super basic, template-based binding. And I noticed that there was one particular thing that people commonly misunderstood about template-based binding. And I noticed that it wasn't uncommon that people didn't quite understand the underneath the hood about this. So I dove in a little bit and then tried to make it digestible. And then I started presenting material about that, talks and things like that. It's very basic, but I said, hey, and you get to use talk titles like what you don't understand about binding, which everybody thinks that they know binding because it's like the very first thing you learn. Yet,
Joe.
Yeah.
Templates and binding and performance.
Oh my.
Just kidding. Hey, if you're listening and you submitted something and something and something on my talks, we're sorry. We're not trying to poke fun at you. It's just not a good talk title. All right.
Feel free to resubmit it with a new talk title or
Yeah.
email us and we'll adjust your talk title with something.
All right. We have some other questions. Sham has a really good question. We get this question a lot. Can I submit more than one talk? Yes, you should be. You should submit all your ideas. Shall, like, if ng-conf is going to be the best conference, you should submit all your best ideas. Submit them all. And can encourage your friends to submit all theirs as well. Don't just like go, you get all your team members, hey, yo, you're good at this, submit on that. You're good at this, submit on that. If you have someone who you want them to be a leader, challenge them to submit, right? If you see leaders who are like undiscovered in the community, you're like, wow, that person really inspires me. Get them to submit and get them to submit more ones. Everyone should submit as many talks as they can. Us complaining, 500 talks is too many. That's not why I'm complaining about it. Just, if we get 1,000, well, then guess what? We're going to have to take 3 days to do talk selection, but we're not going to be mad about it. And so everyone should submit as many talks as they can, as they feel like they should. Not as many as they can. Sorry, that was not the right way to say it. As many as you think you could deliver, as many as you want to submit, you should submit.
So talk about the wrong way to do that, Aaron. The wrong way to submit a bunch of talks. The way that can hurt you submitting multiple talks.
Yeah. So like, let's say you have, can I give him an example of what we did in the past?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say I get on there and like Gorgie, who was just on, let's say Gorgie submits 15 talks. And I'm like, he's got so many talks. I'm not going to pick more than one. And so I have to just look at all of them and be like, I'm throwing away 14 of them and I might pick one of them to go to the next round. You know what I'm saying? So we'll literally filter down to that one person's 10 talks and say, which of these is the best? Which of these do we like the most? Because that's the one that would get picked. And then the other ones, we just kind of trash and we end up with like the one really good one. So I think if I was going to do 10, I would probably spend a little bit more time on one or two and really craft them and, really, really care for those 2 or 3 and hope that those made it all the way to the end. And then the conference organizers had to pick 2 or 3 of my own talks, which has happened a few times. Right, Joe? Yeah. We've had some people who they make it to the end on multiple talks. Yeah. And then we're just like, well, this sucks.
So to clarify, we don't have a rule that we cut you down to one talk between rounds 1 and rounds 2. But instead, we do look that you have multiple talks and we'll go through and just pick your best talks.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that also implies something else, which is if you just throw out 20 ideas that are just like bland ideas, that could be very negative because by the second and third bland idea, now in our minds, we flip the bozo a bit and everything that you're throwing out is not quality. And we might just reject all of your talks without looking at them because it's obvious you're just shotgunning, trying,
Yeah.
Here's a base templates. And how template-based fundamentals, and there's a talk. I will talk about template fundamentals, and then you just have 10 talks like that. Nope.
Can I tell a story though?
Yeah.
One year, one of the community members did something absolutely genius. It's one of the community members that we love, and they love us, and we're really friends. They timed it perfectly to where they submitted just this random talk, like 2 or 3 months through the talks, like the CFP process. And it just said, this is a fake talk title. I'm only submitting it to tell you you're doing a good job at picking talks. I love you. I know it's hard. Keep trying. And that was Shai Resnick. And it was so funny because we were all laughing. We're like, yeah, we're about halfway through it. And that's what he had said. And so have fun with it. Put your passion into it. That's what makes conference talks unforgettable is when someone really, really is passionate about what they're talking about. So
yeah, that's a key thing. Pick talks that you have passion for.
All right. The Tiger Lily 7. Do I have a significantly better chance of getting a 20-minute talk accepted than a 5? Is there a limit on how many talks I can submit? Because I got a couple ideas for 5 and 20-minute ones. There's not a limit. Obviously, submitting 20 talks is going to kind of get you put into that category where it's like, well, we gotta limit this down to 1 or 2 because, I would never pick 20 from the same person. So I wouldn't spam it, But I do want to address something that Tiger Lily's saying. Tiger Lily 7 is this. Sometimes you have a talk that you could do in 5 or you could do in 20. I think you should submit that 2 times. One as a 5 and one as a 20, or at least submit it once. And in the notes say, I could do this as a 5. I will say at the end of every year, we end up with not enough 5-minute talks that sound entertaining. A lot of the 5-minute talks sound like no. So we end up like the last round. It's like, well, we need 7 5-minute talks and like there's only 7 left. So like all the 5-minute talks make it through. So like honestly, that last round, the 5-minute talks that have made it that far, there's not as much competition. So I would encourage you to get some 5-minute talks in if you think you could pull it off. But that is a difficult thing to do. 20 minutes is hard, let alone 5.
We also commonly pick 20-minute talks that we really like, and we ask the speaker if they can do it in 5, because we don't have any more 20-minute slots, but we do have some 5s. That happens often. We also commonly see 5-minute talks that it's obvious you can't cover the topic in 5 minutes. It's too much. So if you think that's a risk that we might interpret a 5-minute talk that way, explain how you're going to cover that deep topic in 5 minutes. That's going to be important.
Like imagine you submit a 5-minute talk called Advanced NGRX. Like that's probably not going to get picked because there's no way to do Advanced NGRX in 5 minutes. And so like, but if you could, or something like Node plus Angular plus GraphQL, and it's just like, come on, man. You couldn't even talk about one of those things in 5 minutes. You can't, let alone all things. So submit your 5-minute talks with care, focus on them, realize, you know, if you took two minutes per one lesson, your 5-minute talk could have 2 lessons in it, and focus on that. You know what I'm saying? If you have a 20-minute talk, your 20-minute talk can have 7 or 8 points. It can't have 40 points. There's no way to fit 40 points into a 20-minute talk. And so focus on those kind of things as you approach.
So here's some variations on the Advanced NGRX in 5-minute talk that I think would seem interesting. 5 advanced things about NGRX you didn't know in 5 minutes, or like make in 5 minutes part of your talk title. If you actually throw down the gauntlet, Advanced NGRX in 5 minutes, that would raise our eyebrows. And then we would look at the notes and you say, I'm going to do blah, and I'm going to show that I can this is going to happen in 5 minutes. And I'm going to talk about blah. Now we see it. But if you just say Advanced NGRX, as if you're going to teach everything about Advanced NGRX in 5 minutes, it's obviously not going to work. So
I love that too. Mike Brocky submitted a few years ago, 20 operators, the 20 most important operators in 20 minutes. And it was just a 20-minute talk. He knew he had 60 seconds per operator, and he just cruised through 20 operators in 20 minutes. And it was a fantastic talk. So I would definitely encourage people to throw in the gauntlet, like 5 advanced NGRX topics in 5 minutes. Like that would be like, whoa, I do want to know that, right?
How to understand everything about NGRX important in 5 minutes, right? Something like that. Those are cool talk titles.
Yep. Fantastic ideas. You took the advanced one and you actually made it work in 5 minutes, right? So yeah, totally. Okay. I see some other questions.
Nobody joining us wants to come on and ask a question.
Yeah.
Live?
Again, we have this StreamYard link down below. If you want to join in that link, you can kind of come on live with us and ask your question and kind of shoot the breeze with us. You'll be on the back. I think Craig is watching Phenomenal. Craig should join and just be part of this panel with us. Because he's a fun gent. Okay. I don't see any other questions that we haven't really answered. So if you haven't heard anything, please feel free. If you haven't seen your question come up, we've kind of moved past it. So feel free to ask it again. Thomas says, are there many or any schematic builders talks submitted?
We don't know yet. We haven't looked at what's been submitted. So
we don't really. Yeah, there will be a handful, maybe 3 or 4. There'll be several, and it will go to the end. We'll have a schematics section, like a tooling section, where talks will be inside tooling, and schematics will go in there, and we'll come up with 2 or 3 tooling talks, and so yeah, we do tend to categorize the talks, right, Joe? Yeah. That is one thing. So like we will say, hey, we'll have a category for libraries. We'll have a category for routing. We'll have a category for state management. We'll have a category. We'll have a tooling category. And then we'll pick a handful of each talks, several from each category, and that's kind of how we end up with the ending lineup. So schematics would go in a good spot. So yeah, I would definitely, but to your point, we don't look at the talks before we pick, because we're trying to be as impartial as possible. We're trying to be neutral and make it fair for everyone. So we don't go in there and check everything out. All right. Shah just joined. So Shah, I'm gonna go ahead and bring you to the stage. How you doing?
Hey guys.
Hey, Shah.
Great. Great. My question, thanks for doing this. This is so amazing. I attended one
Good,
ng-conf a couple of years ago, so you guys are doing an amazing job. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
My question is about what kind of thought that goes into diversity and inclusion while picking up the speakers.
So
we love those talks.
I gotta let me just spread my elbows out here. Can I be? I want to get vulnerable and real, if I could. Is that okay? The first year we did ng-conf,
Absolutely.
the first year we did it, Joe and I heard the word diversity, and we didn't know what it meant, and we didn't pay too much attention to it, unfortunately, to our detriment. This is a real criticism on myself. Year 2, we started to hear that word more, and we started to embrace it slowly. And about year 3 or 4, we caught stride, and we're like, okay, all right, this conference, and we finally realized what ng-conf was. This is the conference for Angular. This conference, these speakers need to make up the community. The speakers need to be the community. And we realized that means we have to look at our speakers differently. And so now we won't pick a speaker as a tokenization of what they look like or what they act like or where they're from. We won't do that. But we do at the end stand back and say, does this speaker lineup look like the community? Does it look like the speaker lineup we want the community to look like in 10 years? And you do have to pay attention to that. We pay an insane amount of attention to that. And I'm totally honest, like it really, really matters to us. For years, we had to focus on that really, really hardcore and intentionally get the speaker panel to look like the community. Okay. And that was difficult, and it was always emotional. It was always important though. This last year though, we were able to implement some things that allowed us to not even, by the time we were done picking talks, after the first time we were done, we stood back and said, let's adjust this to make sure it looks right. And it did look right. And that was because we now have a better pattern of inviting the community, specifically those less reached community members or the community members who don't take the shot as much, and saying, hey, we want you to submit. Feel welcome. Have us help you. What can we do to get you to submit? So we now try and get more talks to come in from the diverse and less represented members of the community. And what that does is organically those talks come out the bottom of the funnel, and we end up with the perfect talks. Like we really, really take pride in making sure we have enough representation from everyone in the community. So yeah, like to say that we love it, it would be. I can't say how much we really, really care about that stuff. So good, great question. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah. Thanks a lot. No, I just realized I was just reading the ng-conf goodies. So yeah, thanks a lot. I've been doing this every day now. Okay, thanks a lot.
Good. Yeah, man, I'm going to put you on the backstage. Feel free to stay here. And I'm going to welcome to the stage one of my favorite people. Phenomenal. How you doing, Craig?
Oh, hey, team. How we doing?
Hey, Craig.
Good. Are you in Sweden or are you in New Zealand? Where are you at?
I'm back in Sweden. I went to go back to Europe end of November. So
cool.
Hanging out. It's snowing right now. It's pretty great.
That's awesome, man. I love it.
I'm trying to write my talk submission right now, so I figured I would come watch.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah. Well, you're a veteran, and last year your talk, it's no secret, was one of the favorites, right? Anytime a dude as sharp as you busts out a guitar and starts singing, Man, that's a tough act to follow. I don't want to follow that one.
It was fun and it was terrifying. But if anyone's watching this, just submit something. Or you've all got cool ideas. And they'll be better than me talk guided. So just submit, just listen to what Frosty and Joe are saying. And yeah, submit everything.
All right, we've got a question by the Tiger Lily, and we're gonna let Craig help out on answers here. Do you workshop the talks with the speaker? I mean, can they send a full already accepted talk to you and return it with suggestions for improvement? Yeah. So like Joe kind of talked about this. If you have a 20-minute talk and we want that in a 5, like we like it, but we don't have enough space, so we want it in a 5, we'll workshop that with you. If we know the speaker, we're like, hey, we definitely want this speaker here. Their talk is close-ish. It almost fits in this category where we need to talk. We'll workshop as well. But it's that first round. Once you get past the first round, we workshop. But I'll say most talks don't get workshopped. Like to go from 500 to 50 is freaking brutal.
And I wonder if this question is about before submitting, can I send over a talk to you and have you send back suggestions for improvements?
Yeah.
I would add in general that like Twitter is a really great place for this. Like your GDE community, all your Angular friends, reach out. People love reading submissions. People love giving ideas. I'm happy to. If anyone wants to look me up, I'll check out your CFPs and see what I can do.
Yeah, we have limited time. If we get a few requests, absolutely. If we get a ton of requests, then we'll reach out. We'll help like find GDEs or other community members that would be happy to help you work on a talk title. And we would definitely, especially prioritize people who are trying to get their first talk submitted, at a major conference, or people who come from an underrepresented background as well. But we are happy to give as much help as we possibly can. So if 100 people saw this and said, cool, and sent in 100 talk titles, it definitely wouldn't be Aaron and I giving you the feedback, but we'd help work out a way to find the right people to give you some feedback and workshop with you.
And then also as a way to help people feel safe and welcome, I want to share this next piece of information. It's kind of in this area, but not totally. It's definitely for our first time speakers, but for any speaker, once you're selected, we have a full, like there's a professional speaker training coach that we hire, and you are allowed a certain number of hours with them to prepare your talk. They'll coach you on your delivery. They'll coach you on your messaging, your confidence, how you hold your hands, maybe ways to improve your slide deck. If you're worried about your stage presence at all, we try to close the gap on that by hiring and providing you a professional speaker coach. Craig, you've been a speaker, so I'm sure you got this offer in the past. We've offered it for several years now, including the Angular team helps fund that. And so the Angular team also really wants to pull down any barriers that it's preventing someone from trying to give a talk. We are trying to make it as easy and welcoming and as fun of an experience as we can. So yeah.
Yeah, and we'll do whatever we can. If you're neuroatypical, or if you aren't submitting because you're too shy and worried about it, but you have good content to put up, we try to make as much allowance and help as we can, so that that's not what stops you from submitting and speaking. But it's just a matter of desire. If you decide not to submit, it's because you don't want to.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to say kind of the same thing. There's a huge community out there. There's other places you can give your talk. You can look out for your local meetup and practice there. If you're worried about the big time of ng-conf.
Yeah. It's tough, man. This is a big stage. We have a couple people who are like, this is my first talk, and I'm like, oh, that would be so scary. Thinking back to my first talks. All right, Ramiro Rivera, he says, do the talks have to be about something completely new? Like if there's already some blog posts about the same topic, does that stock still have a chance? Totally. I mean, some of our talks are just things that have been around for a long time. Some of them, like Craig, you talked about unknown in TypeScript. Like that wasn't a novel thing to talk about, but it was a less understood thing. And so it made a really, really, really good talk. And so it doesn't matter if there's blogs. One thing we do look at, we do kind of like to be the first place you've given this talk, but that's like a mandatory. we do want to see if you've given this talk before. If so, we might ask you to change it up a little bit, but
right. Mostly if it's, especially if it's been on a major conference and is on YouTube. If you've been giving it at meetups, totally different, right? That's
Totally
more
different.
like practice to really give it, you know, that's even nice because then you get it a few times being more polished. But if you've given it at another major tech conference and it's already on YouTube under their channel, then, you know, we're not really adding anything to community by having you come and give that same talk.
Yeah. Yep. Totes. These are good questions. I will say we're really interested in making a place where speakers have fun and speakers can learn. In the history of conference speaking, conferences haven't. The speaker lineup's been a bit homogenous, and I think I can identify with that. And we're really focused at not being that. We're really, really focused at having a conference where the attendees and the speakers are a makeup of the community. And so, so please encourage your closest people, your closest friends, to get out there and have a chance to shine and represent the community and grow the same way that that they should, in my words. So yeah.
Just a reminder again, please don't ask any questions that aren't about CFPs for in general and ng-conf in specific. We're not here to answer tech talks or career advice.
Or so we have.
Yes, but this isn't Stack Overflow Live. Georgi Parkalov threw out a few talk titles. I think it'd be good to go through those and give some, you know, critical feedback here.
Okay. For a unit testing boilerplate automation talk, which title jumps out? Automating Angular unit testing, or Angular unit testing made easy, or I tried to automate my unit tests and this happened.
I don't love any of them.
I like the third one the most, but I don't love any of them.
I like the third one the least.
You like it the least? That's a Shai Resnick talk title, and that's why I kind of like it. He does that kind of stuff. So,
what I don't like about the first talk is that actually just sounds like I don't know. I don't understand how that's actually just different from just writing unit tests and doing karma. So that doesn't stick out as, hey, this is something novel or interesting that you don't know just because you already learned how to do unit testing. Angular unit testing made easy is too watered down. Just making it easy, but why is it made easy? Like, give me more in the talk title so that the only people that would be interested in that talk are people that are really just struggling with unit testing in general, but people who already are doing some unit testing, but you have something really valuable for them. They just don't know it yet. You haven't communicated that in the talk title. And then the third one is Aaron likes it. Craig, you don't. I think I'm more on the Craig side. It was like now, like to Aaron's point, if Shai submitted that talk, then I'd be like, oh my gosh, what the heck is Shai gonna do? It's gonna be whatever it is. It's gonna be crazy, right?
yeah.
I want to know what sort of automation we're talking about. Like, if you're talking about generating tests, then that starts sounding interesting. But like, what did you automate? Like Joe said, they're already automated. What did it mean?
Yeah.
So if you're generating tests, you should call it that, automatic test generation for Angular, or or what to Craig's point, I don't understand what the talk is. So yeah. Anyway, where's another one from him, Joe? I only see that one.
That was it.
Okay.
It was the one with the 3 titles in it.
Yeah. Tomasz said, hey, if I have questions after this, where can I ask questions? On Twitter, I'm at Aaron Frost. So feel free to reach out to me. I know Joseph Eames got his. Joe, you got your DMs open on Twitter, right? At Joseph Eames. And to Greg's point, man, Twitter is the community that will answer. So if you just tweet #Angular and say, hey, what do you guys think about my talk title? And then if you DM me and say, hey, Frosty, retweet this, man, I'll just retweet it to try and get you some visibility and some feedback. So please reach out. Vinay, yeah, we ignored your question. So, okay. What else are we gonna do? Does anyone else have anything else they want to talk about? We only got a few minutes. Joe and I have another meeting like right on the backs.
Right on the backs.
Right on the backs. Craig, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah. What's your t-shirt? I want to see your t-shirt there. Frank Turner.
British folk punk guy. Strong recommend.
There you go.
On the musical theme, I guess. Oh, that's the other thing. Like this year, we're doing the musical thing again, right? So, looking forward to see what everyone does.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Reach out to us on Twitter. Submit your best talks. In a few weeks, Joe, when does the CFP end?
23rd, I believe.
Of January.
Yeah.
All right. So next Friday, that sounds like, right? Or is that Saturday night? So it sounds like Saturday. It's going to end next Saturday. And then Joe and I, within a week or two of that, we go into the extremely draining process of whittling down to the final speakers. And it's very, very, very difficult. So yeah.
We had another question come up. It's a good quick one. Max Bendick.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of talk proposals about music programming?
This year we might. I don't know.
We should.
We should, you would think.
We're open. Yeah, we're open.
Yeah.
So.
We've had rare ones. Maybe we've had 3 submitted.
What's that genius dude? What's that genius guy who did it that one time? Long hair. Taro.
Oh yeah.
You know, and he had like that app that just generated music or like noises when you touched it accordingly. Man, that was a good talk.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. All right. Okay, community, we love you. Please let us help you however we can. That's what we're here for. Thank you, and we'll catch you next time.